he has to keep in mind that Donald Trump is not like any other leader he's ever met. He doesn't have a philosophy. He doesn't do grand strategy. He doesn't even do policy the way most leaders of Western democracies do it. He's ad hoc, transactional, episodic, and he sees things largely through the prism of what benefits Donald Trump. So I think what Starmer has to do is think about how to appeal to Trump, not necessarily on the merits of what he wants to talk about, Ukraine or NATO or other subjects, Chagos Islands, but what is it that I can say to Trump that will get him to accept the position that I think is in our mutual best interest?
And what do you think those things are? I mean, already we're seeing, the Prime Minister, he said that the UK was going to up its defence spending, for example. It's nowhere near where the Trump administration is saying they want it to be. But do you think those sorts of things ahead of this kind of meeting does help and sets the groundwork?
Well, it's better than nothing, but getting to 2.5% of GDP for spending on defense by 2027 isn't close to the 5% Trump has called for. Starmer's got to think of ways to get Trump's attention. Like, for example, Trump believes he should get a Nobel Peace Prize for something. Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009 for no particularly good reason, frankly, and Trump has always wanted one. So Starmer could say, "Hey, I'll nominate you for a Nobel Peace Prize." That would get his attention. Uh, it's pretty clear that Trump likes the British royal family. I would say two of the happiest meetings he ever had in at least my time in the White House were his two meetings with Queen Elizabeth. If Starmer comes and says King Charles is inviting you for a state visit, his eyes will light up, and then maybe they can talk about Ukraine.
Yeah, and speaking of Ukraine, we are expecting Volodymyr Zelenskyy to travel to Washington and meet with Donald Trump tomorrow. I mean, he himself has been looking for clever ways for Donald Trump to have a stake and skin in the game when it comes to the Ukraine conflict. And that's why we've seen this minerals deal, for example.
What Zelensky really wants to talk about to Trump is security guarantees for Ukraine after a peace deal is negotiated. And I think that's a very heavy lift for him. Again, on the personal side, Trump thinks of Zelensky primarily in the context of the so-called perfect phone call in the summer of 2019 that ultimately led to Trump's first impeachment. And notwithstanding really very extensive efforts by Zelensky in the past 6 months to try and develop a relationship with Trump. No criticism of Zelensky. I don't think it's happened. Trump thinks he's friends with Vladimir Putin, says he trusts him when Putin says he wants peace in Ukraine. And since to Trump, all international relations are the personal relations between leaders of different countries, the odds are stacked against Zelensky, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and just help us understand that. I mean, he tweeted or put out an X statement, or maybe it was on Truth Social, about you, about how you'd enter every room. And he said, you would frighten some of these world leaders because they were convinced that you were ready to go to war with them. And of course, he has also rescinded your, security and protection for you. Where are things now for you personally? Because there are concerns about, Iranian threats against you, for example. Did that come as a shock for you?
Not really. Normally when a person's national security advisor and they leave office, they keep the Secret Service protection for 3 months or 6 months, some period of time, just to be prudent. The day I resigned in 2019, he pulled my Secret Service protection within hours after I had resigned. So I knew he had done it once before. It didn't surprise me. It surprised me a little bit. It came so quickly, but that's your basic Donald Trump. It's petty and vindictive. It will have a negative effect, I think, on other people participating in his government, that they could be left to hang out to dry, faced with a threat from a foreign adversary if they disagree with Trump. But that's the measure of the man.
Would you say that there is something in the idea that Donald Trump's approach is still very much mainstream? I mean, Joe Biden didn't go hard on Russia. President Obama didn't go hard on Russia. I mean, he famously tried to reset the relationship. So it's just Donald Trump's rhetoric, which is different from the other leaders, but his approach isn't necessarily different. I mean, even when you look at Minsk 1 and 2, it was the Russians and the allied nations that were sitting across from each other, not the smaller country that was impacted.
Well, you've just described 12 years of failures of American presidents in the Obama and Biden administrations. That isn't the model I would follow. And in fact, notwithstanding Trump's rhetoric, we did impose a significant number of sanctions, new sanctions on Russia during his first term. He went along kicking and screaming. So he doesn't like to think about it now. But if we had not for example, if we had in 2014, if Obama had responded strongly to the first effort to annex Crimea and take over the Donbass, if NATO had followed along, that might have deterred Putin in 2022. If we hadn't withdrawn from Afghanistan, which was a Trump agreement implemented, bungled by Biden in the withdrawal, that was a factor I think that clearly encouraged Putin to think he could go after Ukraine with impunity.
You've worked very closely with Donald Trump, Ambassador. Do you feel that maybe he does have some kind of method to this madness? There might be some kind of plan, that he does see some kind of peaceful resolution, that he does see himself as some kind of peacemaker, whether it's in Ukraine or the Middle East?
A lot of his supporters say all of these Trumpisms, he's really playing three-dimensional chess, and it's a very, very sophisticated plan. Look, he's playing regular chess one move at a time. That's the way he does it. I described the decisions of his first term as like an archipelago of dots. You can try and draw lines between them, but even he can't.